Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, and now for something completely different. What's gone wrong with Honda Part 2? The power of dreams, more like the power of screams really. So, if you just train your minds back to November, I did a video basically explaining why I was very upset with Honda. And many of you will remember, if I can just open this for you, you will remember this little beauty here. Just zoom you in so you can have a quick look at it. This is my car, and it is it's a Honda Civic Tourer 1.8 litre petrol, normally aspirated petrol engine with an automatic gearbox. And it failed its MOT. Now this car, and this is the important part, any of you that follow my channel probably won't be surprised to hear, this car is absolutely immaculate, and as you can see here, it still to this day retains alloy wheels without so much as a scratch on them. Absolutely perfect like new. It's in great condition, it's properly maintained, serviced, everything. It's wanted for nothing. But it failed its MOT due to an issue with the driver's side rear adaptive damper. Now then, here's a cautionary tale if ever I was one. So some of you will already, well, just one or two of you might know the outcome of this story already, but we were promised, the problem is simply that Honda could not source the replacement parts, and they've not been able to source them for some months even before I had my problem. It's best part of about 9-10 months since they actually had these parts available. So I got in touch with Honda UK and spoke to the sort of complaints department, customer services department, who were absolutely useless. I'm sorry, but they were very polite, slightly sympathetic, but offered no help at all. And worst of all, they couldn't give me a date when this would ever be rectified, when these parts would come into stock. There is no other manufacturer who can supply them. There's no aftermarket version of this. It's quite a complicated thing. I'll show it you in a moment. You can have a look at it. Because I have here in the box here, this is actually the good one, the one that wasn't faulty, and we've basically replaced both the rears, because to replace just the one that was faulty would be very short-sighted. Because if this one, should it ever go in the future, I'd say it is fine. But you know, if in 12 or 18 months this was to fail, we'd be right back in the same situation. So we put two brand new ones on the back. I'll explain why in a minute and how in a minute. So the story goes, they were saying it might be available at the end of January. Well, I found my MOT in October, yeah. And as I speak to you, I've been without a car for 23 weeks, nearly 6 months. Absolutely unbelievable. Nobody could supply an alternative. I've tried everything, breakers yards. The only cars I could find where there was any available had been hit up the back end, which made them absolutely useless, really, and unsafe to even consider. You know, with no benefit whatsoever, just spending money to end up with the same problems all over again, or worse. So there was just no alternative. So in the end, I put like a back order request anyway on with a parts dealer, Cox Motor Parts, who was a Honda specialist. They couldn't supply it. They didn't know. Honda wouldn't tell anybody. And the issue was that Honda's subcontractor, Sachs, who makes this unit, I mean, why they put adaptive dampers on a car like this? On a, you know, Ferrari, Porsche, Aston Martin, something like that, you can understand it for a track car that needs to be very firm on the track and then softer on the road, yes. But why they put it on a humble little pseudo estate car, I can't imagine, like a station wagon. Crazy. Anyway, they did, and they're very proud of it as well. There's actually a video of them testing it in Sweden, I think it was. I just think, I watched that video and I think 10 years ago it was. I think, why did you put this on? What was the benefit to the customer? None. Anyway, it failed and it was leaking, and it failed the MOT because they said it wasn't safe. Now at first I was very sceptical. I am very sensitive on cars, and even I can detect when a tyre is lower than the others. I can feel it. I'm very sensitive. I felt punctures long before they became a problem and things like that. And the bizarre thing about this tale is this is the only time I've had a major failure in a car like this, and I couldn't detect anything. I couldn't detect any difference when I was driving it when it had this fault. But it was true. What it did exist, because I could see it leaking. The hydraulic fluid was leaking down the leg. So it's not a lie. And they were right to fail it, I suppose. But for Honda to not be able to supply, and the reason they couldn't supply the parts was that their subcontractor to Sachs, who made the inner tube, which I'll show you in a minute. It'll be clearer and I'll show you. But I'll put that away, so you don't see it anymore. But the inner tube, which Sachs make the whole unit, I'll show you now. I've got the gloves on for different reasons today. No fancy watch on today in case I bash it against this industrial piece of automotive hardware. Here it is. This is what's been causing all the problem. Not this particular one, because this is actually the good one. They took them both off for me in the end. I'll explain that in a minute. But what you have basically is you've got a solenoid in here. Activates a valve. Electrically connects via this connector into the electrical system and the computer. And you can select soft, medium, standard, or hard, firm ride. Goodness knows why you'd want to do any of that. That is the unit there. That is the unit. So, in fact, I've actually washed this. It's fairly clean. Where I'm handling it is. Not so much the bottom where it's a bit less clean. But let me just zoom you, and you can see what I am really talking about. Here it is. And does it say Sachs? Yeah, it just says made in Germany, but it's made by Sachs. It says it on the side, CDC. There you go. See it? This is the thing that's caused all this trouble that I've been raving and ranting about for months, with some justification. So this is the unit. Now what happened was this component, this top tube, this inner tube here, this is the bit I believe which is the company went out of business, and Honda in their foolishness did not have a backup supplier. And they had to then source a new manufacturer to produce these tubes to actually create the whole damper, which is absolutely ridiculous. This is just in time, when just in time goes wrong, basically. Isn't that ridiculous, quite frankly? I'll just shut it up to just make it cross so I keep looking at it. So there we go. So what then happened is they had no idea when it was going to be. They said end of January. January came and went. February came and went. And on it goes. Now, put yourself in my position. We've got a car here that we have insured, we've serviced it, and we've taxed it. Which, I mean, a 6 months tax and insurance alone is about £550, £600 just for half a year. Wasted down the toilet, frankly. And no sign and no information about when we're going to see the item coming through. So what I did in the end is I contacted the most local Honda dealer, because the local one is no longer there, but I went to the other one that's at Stoke-on-Trent, Holcroft Honda. I'll name them as they were. They did help me, you know. And there was a chap there called Lee, I won't give his full name, but a gentleman called Lee in the parts department who was actually incredibly helpful. And I hope he's watching this, and just say thank you to him. He's the only person that showed that they gave a monkeys about it, really. How anyone, you know, a Honda customer who's had 6 Hondas, we are a very loyal, perfect customer for Honda that buys Hondas again and again and again. How they could be treated like we were treated is just beyond me. Because Honda UK didn't give a monkeys, it was just like a call centre, some kid on the phone who just kept talking absolute rubbish. Oh, you can go to the Ombudsman. I actually complained to the Ombudsman and they didn't even respond. I actually chased it up, and there was an auto response, so I know they got it. It didn't go to the wrong address or anything. Auto response said, we'll come back to you, but you've got to have had the problem for at least 8 weeks. And then they just never responded, and then I chased them up, still didn't respond. Absolutely drove me crazy. So they were of no help at all, so that was a blind alley. Then, so I spoke to this gentleman Lee in the parts department. I spoke to a couple of them, and they tried to help, you know, but they couldn't get any information either. But this guy Lee, this sums it up for me about dealing with companies and the frustrations that many of us feel. Because I know there's at least one gentleman, many of you have commented that you've had similar problems. One gentleman in particular has had exactly the same problem with this exact same component. And if he's watching, by the way, if you should be able to get it now, I think. If you can't, this is my good one, because the other one, believe me, you could tell it was leaking this fluid all over the damn place. And I just thought, they gave me both the boxes, and I said, no, I don't want that one, there's no point. You know, this one is the good one. I've taken it off as a precaution. But this was fine, it's operating correctly. You can buy it off me if you really want to. I'm keeping it as a spare, because if I ever sell the car, a buyer may not realise how actually important this could be. Because one day, if it ever goes again, there's a spare there. There's a spare component. Anyway, so coming back to the present day and the situation with Holcroft Honda and this gentleman Lee in the parts department there. He did go the extra mile in a way that nobody else did, and they just didn't seem to care less. And it's so frustrating for a customer. And it doesn't matter what brand it is. I've heard another story, almost identical story, about Jaguar. I know someone who's got a Jaguar and had a very similar situation with the diesel particulate filter on a diesel Jag, and has had it off the road for 6 months. Very similar scenario. So don't go thinking this is just Honda's. It don't affect me. Just be very cautious. Be very cautious. Don't assume that your manufacturer can actually... They're so cut to the bone with some of the way that they're operating this just-in-time system and all this Kaizen nonsense, that they just have no plan B. There is no plan B. Everything depends on their supplier supplying, and if they don't, that's it, game over. And that's what happened here. Half a year's motoring costs down the tube at our expense, because Honda as a manufacturer, I'm talking about now, not the dealer, the manufacturer failed in a spectacular manner. Disgusting. There is no other word for it. Anyway, let me tell you about the more positive part of the story, Lee. What Lee did was he looked around on the internal Honda system. Let me have some of my slightly begrudging having using the Honda mug today, but I thought I ought to for this particular vid. Whether you'll see it again is very debatable. Anyway, when he did this chap, he went on the Honda internal system and he spotted that there were two of these. Now, these are new because this has just been remade by Sachs. They've got they have eventually found a new subcontractor to make it. So this box I've got, sorry, not the one that's in it, but the box is from the two brand new ones that have just come through, freshly made. And they had I think he said they had a back order of 12, I think he said. There's quite a few of them anyway. So it's obviously, and it's not a common car. The Civic is very, very common, but the Tourer is not common at all. They even said the dealer there's only a small handful of them that they look after, you know. So what he did, he looked around the internal Honda system and he found a pair at a Honda dealer in Poland. And this is from the original supply, so identical to what's in the box. And he then said, well, you can, we can get you the parts, because originally I wasn't going to have them fitting it because they didn't do the MOT, and that was kind of their own fault at Honda Holcroft, because they never bothered to contact us and tell us it was due, and I realised with a day to spare. Anyway, long story short. So it wasn't going to be fitted by them originally, it was going to be fitted by just the local garage. But the local garage didn't seem to care that much either, I won't name them, but they left it 10 weeks before they ever followed up, and I was 10 weeks without a car, having failed the MOT, and they were supposed to be letting me know when they were going to get the parts, and they never really chased it up, so that annoyed me as well. So a series of quite poor letdowns, and I've had to chase, and my wife will tell you I've actually started going grey just at the sides here, because I'm not grey, I don't know whether you think I am, but I'm actually blonde. Just a little bit of grey creeping in, just here and here. I'm sure it's to do with these bloody Honda parts. Anyway, this lad Lee, he found him in Poland, and he said, right, well, here's the details. Now, unfortunately, the Honda dealer in Poland was a dealer, genuine dealer, but they wouldn't accept credit card payment or PayPal, which was very risky for a consumer to then buy and hope. And I had to pay DHL, I think it was going to be about £120, £130 in shipping. And I don't think that's got anything to do with Brexit, for anybody pipes up, it's just shipping cost. So this wasn't attractive either, so it was costing more than it would if I just waited for these. And then I said to them, well, I can't really do this because I can't just make a bank payment to a company I don't know, and I've got no comeback on them at all. I said to the dealer, if you'll do it, I will give you a deposit if you need it, or I'll definitely guarantee for you to do the work, so you get something out of it, because obviously they're not going to go buying on somebody else's behalf and then not get any work out. Can't blame them for that, they didn't want to do that. And I understand that completely. They're not a charity, you know. So in the end, he said, "Yes, okay, well, we'll try and do that." Anyway, then it all went wrong because apparently they made a payment to these people in Poland. Again, I won't name them, but they made a payment, and it all went wrong because they claimed later that they'd given them the wrong account number. Luckily, it wasn't fraud. It didn't go anywhere. The payment bounced back because the account number wasn't correct and it didn't match all the other data. That's the way it works. Everything's got to be correct, hasn't it, for it to go through. Anyway, so that got cancelled, and then they announced, "Oh, we've just got great news." Like last week this was. He said the actual parts are coming from Honda themselves, from the new supply from Sachs, and we'll have them first week in April. So they were fitted on Friday, brand new ones. This came all of a sudden. I cannot tell you how frustrating this has been for it to have gone on this long and to not have any quantitative quality of information when it will actually be done. If somebody had said to me, "It's going to be 6 months, Peter. It's going to be 6 months, literally." Then you could say, "Well, I'll sawn the car so I don't have to tax it, take it off the road, and that'll save the tax cost for 6 months, and I won't insure it because it's not going to leave the drive." But because nobody can tell you when it's going to come in, you couldn't do that. You couldn't plan ahead anything. It's so frustrating, so frustrating. Anyway, this chap who was, he did his best and he really did try and help, and he did help in the end, And it actually says urgent order on here. They made it a priority shipment. So I got it done. It was done on Friday. Bizarre to me because the car still feels the same. I can't detect any difference really at all when it feels on the road. But it's done now and it's MOT'd and it's all good for another year. But this is the way the story ends, I mean, how does anyone listening to this story, I'm as loyal a customer as you'll get from a manufacturer. I've liked Hondas for a long time. I've had Honda company cars, 2 of them. So I said 6. I think there's 6 cars. My wife's had 2, I think, and I had 4 with her. So that's 6 plus this one. There aren't going to be any more. You cannot have a manufacturer let you down this badly. The dealership did do what they needed to do, and they were extremely helpful, and I'm very grateful to Holcroft for doing what they did in the end. I was pleasantly surprised by them actually, because I haven't always had good results with them in the past. But yes, they were very good. And this lad Lee, if he's watching, thank you very much. So if you need any parts and you're in the Stoke area, you need to contact Lee. He's the man. But he handled it very calmly, and he understood my frustration, which is I'm glad about. He's the first person that showed any sympathy really. And I said to him, because I was ranting and raving on one occasion, he said, "Well, getting angry doesn't help." I said, "Listen, just put yourself in the customer's position. Imagine this is your car and you've had no means of transport for 6 months. This is absurd. Yeah, you can't expect customers to remain loyal and happy with that." And I've got to say that it's destroyed I said this in the first video, but it's, this has gone on another almost 3 months longer, 2.5 months longer than what they promised it would, although there was no guarantee. But so that was worst scenario. They're saying the end of January. I mean, I was being told that at the beginning, it might be the end of January. Thinking, you're joking, right? No, it's going to be early April. So you've gone from mid-late October to early April. That's not acceptable. I'm sorry. That manufacturer has lost our business, in terms of buying new cars in the future. There's no way I'd trust Honda again. And I don't take any pleasure in saying this. I'd be interested to see what you think in the comments, really, your views, the viewers. You can't forgive someone who has just let you down and didn't give a toss. If they'd have said, "Look, we will give you £200 for every month you're off the road so you can get towards a courtesy car or a hire car," I mean, how are people supposed to get about? It's ridiculous. If I was single and I wasn't married, I'd have been absolutely up the junction, because how would I get to doctors or hospitals or, work and all that kind of thing? Absolutely ridiculous. And there was nothing offered, no compensation, no courtesy car. I said to them, Honda UK, "Could I have a courtesy car then, please? Until you can remedy this, can I have a courtesy car?" I.e. really wanting them to just get it fixed and then only have a courtesy car for a few weeks. But I think they knew this wasn't going to be a short-term fix, and that's why they didn't want to offer anything. So they offered nothing. They just left me as a customer stranded without a car for nearly 6 months. That's disgusting. Disgusting. My wife is even more angry about it than I am. And I'm the one that's had I've had to battle, and I've had to try everything. I've rang specialist suspension tuning companies, 3 or 4 at least I can think of. No, and they all said no, because that's because it's such a unique item. It's only on that model. Nobody else will be able to replicate it. It's a unique part, and it's not generic or used on other types of cars or similar cars. It is unique. So there was no escape and no alternative. I couldn't get one from a breaker's yard or a second hand. There was none available. Nothing at all, apart from these ones in Poland. And that went flunked on its backside in the end. Nobody's fault, I'm sure. I think it was a genuine mistake what happened. Because the Honda dealer communicated with me in Poland, and they were really friendly and helpful, so I'm not knocking anybody there at all. It was people trying to solve the problem, but just fate, But it's like it was cursed. It's just so frustrating. A simple thing like this, I can sort of sit here now and and it's kind of weird now. We've got 2 cars now, we've both got a car each again. And it's just kind of weird now. You can choose which car to go out, and you couldn't do that before. You couldn't leave the drive without breaking the law, Just a real frustration, and completely beyond what is acceptable. I don't think that any manufacturer, and this car was only, it's 9 years old. It was 9 years old, but it's got very low miles. It's only got 45,000 miles, and it's mint. It's done very low miles and been really pampered. So it shouldn't have failed anyway. Most people said these things fail at 55 to 60,000 miles. So I reckon this has got at least 10 or 15,000 miles. I'm going to keep this, unless somebody makes me an offer. I'm probably not going to put it on eBay, because if it went wrong, it's just a nightmare, But at least I've got a good one here. I can either keep it, and if anybody watches this video and does need one, and maybe wants to get one cheaper, because they were very expensive, £350 each, So the total bill with labour came to. I also got some wipers and a new number plate. So if you take that off, it was £1,300. The actual bill to fix this, £1,300. Lot of money, huge sum of money for something very small. Really, it's some cars you get a new engine for that. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's such a lot of cash. Plus, so if you add that as a loss, £1,300 plus 6 months, so it's about £2,000 it's cost us in just a loss, really. Really bad. The reliability was bad, their ability to fix the problem was nil, and their customer care, their attitude was abysmal. So I'm very cross with Honda, and you won't be seeing this mug on my channel again. I'm only drinking it today out of irony, really. So what do you all think? Have any of you suffered something similar? If anybody does want one of these, so this is a good one. This is the one that was absolutely fine in this box. I'll take 125 quid for it, which is about a third of what they're charging you now. Almost. 125 quid. Sold as seen, but it is fine. So the other one, it was dead. You can see, when he handed me, even the box was dripping with this hydraulic fluid leaking out of it. It was terrible. This one, as you saw, is dry and it's fine. So there we go. So failing anybody making me an offer, I'll just keep on to this, and at least then I can have assurance I'll never be in this situation again. But it doesn't, moving away from me and moving away from my car now, it doesn't fill you with much confidence with these manufacturers if they can treat people like that. They're all smiles, aren't they, at the dealer when they want your money, and as soon as something goes wrong and they're like, oh well, at the end of the day, the dealer was not at fault here. It was definitely the manufacturer. They didn't support the dealers, and I spoke to 2-3 dealers, I think, in the end, before I got it resolved. They didn't support them. They didn't support the parts specialists either. They weren't told any information. They just let everybody down. They let the customer down, the end customer, the consumer. They let down their subcontracting suppliers and dealership network. Absolutely appalling. It's bad, and it's no wonder they've shut down locally. I mean, that was another. Honda in where I live, in South Cheshire, were very, very popular. They had a very good dealership called Stuart Graham Honda, owned by Stuart Graham, the motorcycle racer who in the 1960s, he raced that. Those of you that know me from the modelling channel, he raced on that Honda RC166 that I made, that beautiful, probably my best model. And he raced along, he was the teammate to Mike Hawthorne, and he raced, I think, was he number 5? He was number 4. He raced an identical bike to the one that I made the model of. Lovely chap, met him several times, really nice guy. He had this very overt, sort of family orientated culture in the company. You could feel it. They were nice people to deal with. They even had someone who lives in our village, actually, who worked there. And he used to say, "Oh, I'll collect your car and I'll bring it back in the evening if you want. If you pay them over the phone, I'll just drop it back at your home." We used to do that sometimes. Brilliant, proper service, you know. It's all gone now. So he sold up the business because he was too old and he retired, you know. And another company took it over, and then they decided to shut it here. So now we have to go to Stoke, much further away, you know. And it's just walking away from your customers, and that's what it feels like they've done generally. That's a sign of their attitude, Honda, that they are allowing that to happen and not replacing that dealership with another. It's bizarre. And then all they want to do is flog these silly electric cars that people don't really seem to want anymore, for good reason. When you see how they devalue and how their reliability over longer term is very questionable, you know. They've gone, as I said in the first video, they've just walked away from the customer, Honda, and they don't seem to care. They don't seem to care. So I'm afraid I am very pleased the car is back on the road. My wife was saying we ought to maybe just sell this car, you know. But I think it's a capital mistake to spend a lot of money, invest a lot of money in the car, fix it properly, you know, at the proper dealer, all done. The car is now fully operational, road legal, totally safe, and drives beautifully. To be honest, it's as smooth as silk, this car. Very quiet car. One of the smoothest, quietest cars I think I've ever had. It almost feels like electric, but without any of the downsides. It's petrol. But it is a very quiet engine, and it's a very quiet, smooth gearbox as well. But I think that we should get our money's worth out of it and use it a lot more. Certainly for the next couple of years. I think probably 2 years we'll probably at least keep it for that, maybe. See how it goes. See how it goes. It needs one or two small, minor things doing to it. Just 1 or 2 bits of corrosion underneath it. Just minor stuff. It's on the surface, that's all. Nothing to get too worried about. And it went through the MOT fine, you know. But there we are. I don't think, you know, when we do come to replace with a newer car, I don't think it's going to be a Honda again, because there's no dealer, local dealer to us, that's within, you know, a reasonable distance, and they don't seem to care, and they don't seem to care about the customers, and if they're prepared to do that to anybody, as they've done. And, you know, as I say, it's not just me ranting and raving. There's another chap out there, is it Jonathan? And he's had exactly the same issue and exactly the same component, and he's fuming about it as well. Well, he will be, because he's been let down by them badly. You know, we pay a lot of money, especially at servicing and buying these vehicles, and then they treat you like garbage. It's just not acceptable. Anyway, there we are. So I thought I'd round off. At least people now know how the story ends. With great cost. You know, it cost us £2,000 if you include the cost of the not having a car for 6 months and having paid for all the overheads for it, plus the £1,300 to fix it. Just crazy. It's not a very good story, is it, really? It's not a very good story. So there you go. That was the Honda debacle, and why they're not a manufacturer that we will trust in the future, really, I'm afraid. Just can't. How would you have confidence again? You know, if they can do that once, they'll do it again when it suits them. Just not supporting the customer, they're not holding stock of things. They should have a backup plan. They didn't have any of that. They just literally almost shrugged the shoulders when I was speaking to Honda UK. They kept saying, "I'm sorry, it's not an ideal outcome." I said, "It's no outcome at all." I said, "This will destroy me as a Honda customer. I'll never come back if you don't do something." And they didn't do anything. We just had to wait until they eventually got their act together. You know, just not acceptable. I'm sorry. Very, very poor from Honda. Very poor indeed. No wonder they've lost such market share like they have, you know. Now the stories that they're trying to get together in a partnership with Nissan, which I believe is now broken down. I don't know. I just can't see them ever getting back to where they were 10 or 15 years ago, when they were really a strong supplier. They had a UK manufacturing base at Swindon, which is where my car was built. And that's all closed now, of course. Again, closed the factory, pulling out the UK. Nothing to do with Brexit. This is long before, yeah? Crackers. What are they doing? What were they doing? I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. This is the same company. I mean, their engineering is usually very good, but this is the same company that pulled out of Formula 1 prematurely, and then their car won the World Championship with a different engine in it, didn't it, the year after? Another terrible judgment that they made. Terrible. Pulled out of Formula 1 twice, both bad judgments. Pulled out and dropped McLaren in the deep stuff, leaving them high and dry. And then they did the same to what became Brawn. And both companies went on to win World Championships without Honda. This is not good judgment. This is not good corporate judgment at all. If you have knee-jerk reactions to what the stock market's doing to that level, and you don't see the bigger picture, the long-term view, you are going to make a lot. You're going to constantly be chasing. You're always going to be behind the curve. You have to have a long-term strategy in business to survive, and you have to have a relationship with your customers, and they have lost that and broken that. Anyway, there we go. That's enough of a rant from me. It was always going to be a rant because it just got worse. It went well beyond what I said in that first rant. It went worse than what they were saying, and it's taken all this time. And it's almost, it's now spring, almost summer, and it's taken all that time to get it fixed. And it should have been done the same week, Anyway, hats off to, I don't want to be too negative, and hats off to this gentleman Lee. It was very helpful, and he did try his very best, and ultimately, he got these to me as priority, and it was done almost immediately. Within 48 hours of the parts arriving in Britain, they were on my car. So that's right. That's the way it should have been as well. But from the manufacturer, not good enough. Not good enough. So hats off to him. So Holcroft, yeah, okay, did a good job, thank you. But Honda, no, you're not getting any more of our money on cars in the future. I just couldn't trust them ever again. So sad, because we've really enjoyed their products for years. Honda S2000, Honda Accord, Honda Civic, Honda HRV, my wife had. I had the Accord Saloon, she had the Accord Estate twice. I had another Accord Saloon, 2 company cars. So what's that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I had the S2000, 6. So this was actually the 7th, wasn't it? Yeah, this is the 7th Honda. Won't be an 8th. Sorry. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll be interested in what your thoughts are, if you've had any similar experiences with other manufacturers or indeed Honda themselves. I just sense that in the world today that customers are no longer, it's all lip service to customer service. There isn't any. And customers are not valued. You see it with like the financial authorities and the banks, where you get better interest rates if you're a new customer. Customers that have been with a bank 20-25 years don't get good offers. They don't get low interest rates offered to them. They're just taken for granted, and that's what happened here. I mean, we just take it for granted. What did they think we were going to do? What reaction did Honda expect? I would love somebody from Honda in Europe or in Japan to come forward and actually apologise for this and explain exactly what happened and why their reaction was so bad and so poor and so uncaring toward the customer. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, there we go. Thank you for watching. I didn't put the fancy watch on today because I didn't want to whack it against that nasty bit of hardware. Well, as I say, if anybody is interested, and then if you have got a Civic Tourer 2015, well, was it 2013 onwards, isn't it? 2013 to 2017, I think it is, the model years. If you have got one of those, a Civic Tourer with adaptive dampers, and you have a problem, I say the one in this box is fine. This is the good one that we took off as a precaution, and I knew that if I put that on eBay, it will sell. If I put that on eBay for £125, it'll be gone in probably a week or two. I probably won't do that now though, because I'm not desperate to sell it, and I'm a bit nervous about a new one's not working out, But if somebody does want it, if you're in a bit of a pickle like I was, then give us a shout, drop me a message. And we can talk. I say, probably looking for about £125 for that one, which, as you can see, is still in decent condition. There we go. Sorry about being a bit of a gloomy, miserable rant, but it was always going to be so, wasn't it? When a company treats its customers as badly as that, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well, and they have lost us forever as a customer. And frankly, anybody watching this, I would say, don't buy Honda. Don't buy Honda. Because they've shown their true colours. It's not the company it was 20 years ago, I'm afraid. Sorry to say this. because they were good. They were really good. We had a great dealer. We had great. I'll give you a final word of advice. Here's the proof that they were good. I had the catalytic, the DPF filter fail on my company car, and it was on the final day of the warranty. Literally 3-year warranty, and it was on the final day of 3 years old. And I said, oh no, I just had this horrible feeling. Now that was a company car, so it wouldn't have impacted me personally. But they instantly said, no, you've still got 24 hours grace anyway. We will replace that at our cost. And this was back in 2012. That's what they used to be like. And then we get to this horror show of bad communication, couldn't care less, removing the dealers, incompetence, pathetic customer service at their headquarters in the UK that just don't care less. You know, they've offered me nothing, didn't give any support at all, didn't give any advice or information. That's it. You've lost a customer, 2 customers. Anyway, I would say to anybody watching this that don't get caught like we did and don't go there. Don't give them your business. Simple as that. And I don't want to be that nasty. That sounds very negative, but I just don't. If you ignore my advice, well, you are warned. Because the way they've performed is unprecedented in my experience and just not acceptable. Anyway, there we go. That's the end of the Honda horror show. I won't be discussing this on YouTube again. Thank you very much for watching though. I hope you thought it was interesting if nothing else, and by all means let me have your thoughts. If you've had anything similar, I'd be very interested to hear it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Give us a like if you don't mind. Until next time, I'm sure we'll be talking about much happier subjects and things that are more fun and calming for us, because I've had some blood pressure problems with this, literally. I can now just relax and enjoy the sunshine and forget all about it and get out and enjoy the car a bit, you know. Anyway, until next time, thank you very much for all your time watching. Take care of yourselves, stay well, stay safe. Thanks a lot. Until next time, thanks a lot and bye for now.